I'm really, really delighted to be able to welcome Lesley from Safe Families, along with her husband, Matt, today. Would you like to come up, Lesley? Lesley is from, give her a round of applause. Lesley is from Safe Families, and I'm not going to tell you all about Safe Families because that's her job, but I just want to encourage you to receive this with a really open heart. We are called to help people in our communities, and this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to help families within our community. And so, yes, please give a warm welcome, another warm welcome to Lesley.
Oh, thank you so much. So it's so great to be with you, and we're here to celebrate as well as for me to tell you about us, because actually we've already got 7 adults in this church volunteering for Safe Families and partnering with us, which is great. And those 7 families have actually helped support 13 families in your community, which adds up to 36 children overall, if we think of all the siblings as well that are benefiting from this help. So making a massive difference to the Wirral. And I'm really excited to tell some of you who perhaps don't know so much about Safe Families more about it and what we're doing and how we're already partnering. I know it's great with Dave and Nikki, who obviously are leaders within your church and absolutely fantastic. Nikki I get to see a lot of the time, which is great, in the office, and her and Dave are both volunteers for Safe Families too. I love the fact when I was looking at your website and talking to Nikki that actually what we're doing with Safe Families is a parallel to the vision of Jubilee Wirral. We're outward looking, and you're outward looking, and living out faith in the community and showing God's love to people, which is absolutely amazing. What we've got up on this slide is about who we are, and Safe Families is all about creating relationship and connection, because we feel that everybody does deserve to belong. And I think what COVID has shown us is that so many people, perhaps including ourselves, can feel really isolated and lonely. And for some of these families that we support, that is not just during COVID time, that is all the time that they are feeling like that. And they're feeling like they haven't got the help and support around them. Perhaps they haven't got family around them. Perhaps they've had to move because of things like domestic violence to keep themselves safe. But now they know nobody in the area. So we are there to offer hope, belonging, and support to these families. One of the stats that came out in 2015 said loneliness and social isolation are as harmful to our health as damaging when you don't have social connections as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And that was 2015. Latest research has actually shown that's gone up to 20 cigarettes a day. So we're looking at a massive impact on people's health there. I know myself, when I first went to university, actually, I started to feel really lonely. The people I lived with, I just couldn't make connections with them. They just weren't similar to me in any way with the way of their living. And actually, I found it really hard. And I started to, so many of them linking to cigarettes were just smoking all the time. And I started to get very ill. And I started to actually feel quite depressed at that university. And I don't know what I'd have done without people from the church that I started to go to around me and supporting me and showing me love and dropping me cards and dropping me food. And actually, that is what we try to do with Safe Families. It's showing those people who do feel isolated, who do feel just like they don't fit in, that they are still loved, the love is still there. So there's going to be a picture that comes out now, and it's about 2 people holding on. And some of you might look at this and think, yeah, I remember that bit from the Bible. So this is from Exodus 17. And the context is that Moses has got this stick that he has to hold up, and God's told him to carry it. And when he holds it up, it means his side wins the battle. But he's unable to do this alone. He's holding it up for a really, really long time. And his arms are getting tired. And that means people will get injured because God has asked him to hold that up. And verse 12 says, when Moses' arms grew tired, Aaron and Hur brought a stone for him to sit on while they stood beside him and held his arms, holding them steady until the sun went down. We have men and women in the UK who do need support. They are struggling with physical health, they're struggling with mental health and emotional pain and poverty. And some of them cannot fight that battle of looking after their children without help, and are constantly worried that that battle will be lost, resulting in negative effects on their children in their care, or even for some of them, they're worried their children might be taken away from them. We need to, as a church, to be like Aaron and Hur, supporting them in this process and helping them to steady themselves. However, Moses didn't just need support for himself. Aaron and Hur's actions made a massive impact on the whole army, a massive impact on the outcome for that whole army. Many Safe Families volunteers are helping more than just the parents. They were also helping specific children who they were showing hospitality, fun and kindness to, often meaning a change in behaviour and attitude. And sometimes there's siblings who we aren't having direct contact with, but who are getting to have better one-to-one time with their parents due to Safe Families volunteers having time with their siblings. By intervening at this early stage, we're making it less likely that these children will be taken away from their main carer, which can cause long-term effects, such as reactive attachment disorder, and this is the idea of the fear of getting close to someone again in case they lose them. One of my favourite, and it is a fairly old song now, but I still see it as new because I'm old, is Hosanna, which says, "Break my heart for what breaks yours. Everything I am for your kingdom's cause." And God's heart is breaking for these families and the lack of active love being shown towards them in the communities. We're going to watch a video now, and I absolutely love this one. It's about a mum who was in care when she was younger, and she tells you about why later on, and her children, and how Safe Families supported her.
I grew up in care because I lost my mum and dad when I was a kid. Being a single mum with 2 kids and not having much support, like family, because obviously I haven't got no family. I just wanted someone to understand me, like someone to help me, someone who actually can believe in me. Yeah, Peter and Vivian, they like help me with the children. Like if I want an hour to myself, they'll come up and collect the children, leave me for an hour, do what I've got to do. And then I've got Sue and Ray that help me with gardening and help, just take me out basically to get out for a bit.
She was very worried that she wasn't doing things right and maybe the children might be taken off her. And
she'd never had the parental support, had she really? What she was doing, she was making up on her own half the time, and she didn't know whether that was right or wrong.
We volunteered to take the kids out, but to see the kids growing up and for them to relate to you and know who you are, to know that we're giving Tam a break as well.
Because obviously I suffer with anxiety and depression, and obviously I can't take the children out, so I'm constantly with the children 24 hours a day, don't get like an hour to myself, so it affects my mental health a bit. If I didn't have them, I think I would have gone downhill and I would have lost my kids. And it's just nice to know somebody you can talk to when you need help. So especially with Ray, I'm always on the phone to him. How do you put a curtain pole up? What do I use? He teach me how to use a lawnmower, the strimmer, so I could be independent a lot more. They're really good people. They've helped me, and you know what? They never judged me for what I've been through and what I've done.
Well, it's just a wonderful thing to do. It's just clearly God's will that these families should have help and should feel loved.
It made me feel like I've got a family, that I've got an auntie and uncle, or a mum and a dad. So it's nice to have that bond with them. They do change your life. When you're in a bad place, they make it positive. Yeah, so you're not on your own. I'm excited to see them because I know them coming to see me and I've got someone to talk to. like my family, really. Yeah, they're like my family.
I just love this verse as well. Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to show hospitality, which means active love to strangers. And that's just something that's really close to God's heart and to our heart at Safe Families. So Safe Families enables volunteers to show hospitality and to build relationships, which enables everyone to thrive. And we're empowering and working with churches to help Christians show God's active love to strangers, because often it's really hard to think of, who do I support? I don't know who to support. How do I help my community? And what is amazing is that we have got links with the local authority who say to us, these are families who actually we wouldn't be able to financially support ourselves because they're not that kind of high up in crisis. But we would like you. We know they need support to stop them going to that next level. And we would love to have people supporting them. And then as a church on the Wirral, we can say, here we are to support them, to look after them, to love and care for those families. Another little stat here. My husband's going to love it because he's into statistics. This is from Marmot 2010. Social networks and friendships not only have an impact of reducing the risk of mortality or developing certain diseases, but they also help individuals to recover when they do feel ill. And that's just a key one. So the next slide here talks about the Centre of Social Justice and what they said about Safe Families, and I just love this. We recognise that Safe Families' compassion, generosity and efficiency in helping families discover hope. And hope's been a key word around COVID time. And it is something that there's been times I know where I've not been feeling hopeful during lockdown. And it was people around me and it's phone calls that helped me move away from the despair and sadness I was feeling. But some of our families don't have this extra support. And some of them are still feeling isolated, as I said before. And what I've come here to ask you, and it's partly as a church as well, about perhaps partnering with us as a church, and for you to perhaps consider that, but also it's about you as individuals. Could you support Safe Families to help those who are still feeling loneliness, sadness and isolation when some of us are feeling a bit more hopeful? And hope is needed now more than ever. And this is the reason why I'm chatting to you today. It's great on the Wirral. We started off about 6 years ago on the Wirral, and we have got volunteers and we have got support going on. In fact, there's been 70 families on the Wirral supported this year with Safe Families. But we do need more volunteers, and this is because actually we've got more opportunities. The local authority love us and they want more people to be supported, and as you can imagine, there's still far more families out there who do need to be supported. And we've got a larger range of ages. We've started to support teenagers as well as children up to 12 now. As you can see from that video, and I just love it, you can imagine those volunteers. They are not going to support that lady for a little bit and then say, we're going to stop now. You can imagine them going, actually, we've built a relationship here and we're going to continue with that. And that is a great news story. But we have situations like that, and we've all only got a certain amount of time on our hands. So it's situations where volunteers have been amazing. They link to that family and they say, I'm going to carry on supporting them after doing it through Safe Families. And therefore I've run out of time, which is great. But obviously that means we need far more volunteers to then come into working alongside of us. Some volunteers are struggling with long-term COVID on the Wirral. I've been doing some catch-up calls with people, and that's something to really pray for later on as well, but also that's really limiting volunteers. So that would be great to pray for them. And then lots of our volunteers on the Wirral are involved in the NHS, and they've been absolutely amazing during this time, but they're still working really hard and they're working extra hours, and when I chat to them, they're absolutely shattered. So obviously we need more volunteers, and also please pray for those. Please pray for them as well, because it's been a hard time for them. So we're just going to look at the 3 different ways to make a difference. I've talked a lot about volunteering here, but it's not just about that. So the first one we're going to start with is prayer. We believe in a God who can do more than we can hope or imagine. And we're really praying for continued good relationships with the Wirral authorities, praying that the right volunteers would come forward to support families, and that there would always be enough volunteers. We're also praying about new contracts. We've had an opportunity to get East Cheshire, and East Cheshire Local Authority are talking with us, and we're putting in a bid for them and linking to them there. And it'd be really great if you could pray and join us in praying with us for that. One of the things you can do to support Safe Families and work alongside us is to become a prayer partner. And I've got some sheets. I've got my little table at the back there. And you can become a prayer partner with us, and you get a monthly information about the prayer needs linking to Safe Families UK. We would love it if some of you could join us with that today. That would be amazing. And another thing you could do is, you were talking about your small groups in Jubilee. We'd love it, perhaps, if you could consider praying for us in those small groups sometimes as well. And you've got a lot of people already volunteering in your church, and we'd love it if you could support them and pray alongside them, linking to the families they're supporting. Obviously, they can't give you all the details, they can't give you names, they can't give you precise things, because that would be unfair to the families. But to support them in prayer with that would be great. Another thing is giving. We rely on individuals giving monthly to allow us to train and support volunteers. And that helps us to practically show God's love to families in crisis. And I know this is a tricky one at the moment, because we're probably up and down with finances because of COVID. But if at all possible, monthly giving is so helpful, because it lets us know how much we've got coming in each time, rather than odd bits and bobs. For example, we know that £8 a month helps one family find hope and connection. And we know it can make a massive difference to that family. However, we do understand that monthly giving isn't always possible, and we're so thankful for any donation. We also appreciate people who fundraise for us. We've had a load of people doing a jelly welly walk recently, with jelly all in their wellies and having to walk at least a mile in it. And that's been a great way for fundraising for the Wirral. And then we've got the volunteering. And I'm just going to give you a couple of stories. So me and my husband, Matt, we've been volunteering for about 6 years now. And obviously I won't give you names and precise details, but some of the things we were doing, my first one I loved. Basically, I was helping a lady take her children swimming. And there was a whole reason for that, why she needed an extra pair of hands. And I went with her. She'd got twins who were really young. There's no way I would ever take those swimming on my own. And I just made sure that between us, we knew which twin we were keeping an eye on and chasing after and making sure they didn't go too deep. And it was just great to work alongside her and support her with that. We've had other situations where we host as well. So we've had older children over. We had one child who loved board games, could not get enough of them. And this is where it comes in really handy if you've got kind of your own kids as well. So don't let that put you off at all and think, oh, I can't volunteer because I've got my own kids, it's really busy. We'd take it in terms of who was playing what game when. I think we had about 10 hours non-stop of game playing. But basically, when she was at home, she couldn't do any game playing because she was actually helping look after about 6 siblings who were younger than her. There's no way that could have ever happened at home. So it was great to kind of support her and her family in that way. Sometimes people go out for drinks with the parents, so supporting them and just having a cup of tea or coffee and chatting to them about parenting and talking through and listening is really, really important. So there's a whole different range of ways. Sometimes it's helping people access information. Now we're coming out of lockdown. Perhaps it's taking a family and going with them and taking them to a toddler group. Perhaps they don't know anyone and they're just thinking, actually, I don't want to go on my own, which I totally understand if you know no one. And it would be great to go with a family friend to that toddler group and be introduced to people. So a whole range of different things. Got a little slide coming up that says, too risky. I know myself, I'm a bit of a health and safety person, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, what if something goes wrong? And this is the great thing about linking and partnering with Safe Families. Actually, we are doing the training, we do the support, we manage the risks, we have family support managers who go round and meet the families first, and who are constantly in contact with the volunteers, so constantly reviewing the situation as well. So we try and keep you safe, and we keep you safe to make the real difference in families' lives. And another thing that you might be thinking if you're considering perhaps volunteering is it too time consuming? And actually, that's why, again, we're there. We do all the time-consuming paperwork. I know Nikki is absolutely amazing with all the paperwork that she does in the office as well. And as the community volunteers and the family support managers, we do that so your time is spent with the children, teenagers, or families. And I know that I would be thinking, making sure I don't drop this, well, I don't know whether I can make a difference with this. I don't know whether I'm suitable. And there's just a few things here. So if you're telling yourself, I haven't got the skills to do this, could you look through your board games and take them round? If somebody from your church, which you've got lots of people, is looking after a Safe Families child and doesn't have something suitable for that age range, that would be amazing partnering with us. Can you drink hot chocolate with a teenager and chat, or a mum and chat, or a dad? Can you pray on your own for Safe Families? Could you create a fundraising event for Safe Families? Can you play board games? Can you go to the park with a child whose single parent is ill and can't take them? Can you read stories to children? Could you give a small amount each month to Safe Families to help us to continue to support vulnerable families in the UK? Can you pray for someone from your church who you know is volunteering? And as a church family, would you consider having regular times of prayer and intercession for Safe Families? And possibly having a team of people who could go round and help with decorating or gardening if Safe Families are already supporting someone and we actually go around to the house and think, actually, they need this. I know there's been situations recently where we've looked at people's gardens for, actually, they need to get outside. We need to help them with this so it's safe for the children and so it gives them more space. So I'd like to say thank you so much for having me with you today. And it's great, thank you. It's great that Dave and Nikki have said we can now have a time of prayer. And I'm going to move over for that to happen.